Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning. Nice to see some new face, some friendly one. You're welcome to turn your camera on because it's nicer for me to see who I'm talking to. I would just ask you to keep your microphone mute while you are not speaking and mute, of course, when you are speaking, just to avoid some background noise. So just, I don't know if there's more people coming, but I will let them in as they come. Just a bit of housekeeping as usual. This chat's going to last around 30 minutes, not longer than that. As always, I'm going to be speaking for around 15 minutes. And then I'm opening the discussion for us to share whatever we feel like sharing. I am recording this chat mainly for me, for my own personal records. And usually what I'm keeping is only the part where I'm talking. I'm trying not to keep everybody's voice, especially if you refuse to be recorded. Let me know. I will just delete this part from your talk. And if you wish to have the recording, it's available only for the one who actually physically attending it, or to a special group that actually not in order quite yet. So it's really limited, and I'm not broadcasting this recording everywhere on social media, etc. So that's for the start. I think nobody else is coming for now. So the topic I chose this month is about mindset, and that's a really, really wide subject. And to be honest, when I picked the subject, I didn't know where to take it because we could be talking for hours and hours about that. So I honestly don't really know where this one's going to take us. I'm going to be doing a little introduction and then we see how it goes because there's really so much we can say about it. The only thing that I can see is that I really want to talk about the notion of control because something happened to me a couple of weeks ago. After picking the subject, I had a flare as well. As most of you know, I'm having MS as well, and there's things that we can choose, things that we cannot. We control it or not. And despite trying to do my best to avoid it, I'm also human and I'm also having MS, and sometimes it just happened to me. But the idea of control is not really how to avoid things from happening because we cannot. It's more how we react to it. So I guess that's where we're going to end up going today. So about this notion of mindset, I don't know if any of you have heard about it already, but the basic thing is to make the difference between the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. This word and all the study that have been done and research that have been done around mindset has been done by psychologist Carol Dweck, which I really highly recommend reading her book if you fancy it. She's been doing an amazing work around that, and she's the first one who really described these two different types of mindsets. That's where we're going to start. So how to explain in a quick and easy way what's the growth mindset and what's the fixed mindset. It's sometimes easier with example. Growth mindset is the one where we actually leave room for improvement and for learning. We believe that a talent or skills can be something to learn. In a fixed mindset, we believe that talents, skills are something that are part of our traits and character. So it's either we have it or we don't have it. And it's like that, it cannot be changed. That's a basic understanding. Now, when we get this basic understanding, we can, I'm looking at my notes at the same time, but see how it can influence a lot of things in our life. Whether we're having this growth mindset, this idea that things can always be improved or learned or used as a, any mistake, challenge can be used as a space for learning. When in a fixed mindset, we think that any mistake, challenge is set in stone and we cannot do anything about that. As a consequences, we indeed do nothing about that. We don't try to make it better. Something as well, I know that I can speak really fast and I have an accent. So anytime you want to stop me, please give me a sign and interrupt me. I'm happy about that. So when we have these two mindsets, it's not we having one or the others. We all have both of them. And despite the name being called a fixed mindset, is not set in stone either. We can change it. It's a lot of work. It's a practice, everyday practice, but it can be changed as well. And what can happen as well, what is happening most of the time is that we can have a growth mindset in certain area of our life, at work, for example, and a fixed mindset in a different part of our life, which can be relationships or, yeah, it's not, I say, it's not one or the others. We can have both. They can change. And depending on the situation in our life or the context, sometimes one is showing up more than the others. So the main thing about this mindset is actually to be able to catch yourself, which is the hardest part. Catching yourself saying, oh, I cannot change this, it's how I am. Or catching yourself saying, oh, I'm having this behavior, this pattern. What can I do about it? Am I clear enough on that for now? Yeah. So yes, as I said, this hardest part is really how to catch yourself. And for that, I don't have a magic tools to give it to you. It's really, as I say, an everyday practice. And there is tools, but you need to find the one that will work for you. So if I give a list, there can be meditation is really helping for that. Practice of mindfulness is helping for that. If you're someone who like to write, journaling is really helping as well. Having a gratitude practice can help. Affirmations can help. So there's a lot that exists. But there's not just one that will sort it like that. You need to find what's work for you. But there's one that I really, really love and always use for myself is, I like to call it the control gate. When I manage to catch myself, I will take whatever's happening, the situation, the thought, and I will pass it through the control gate, which means I will identify everything in this situation, take the time to have a pause, and see in that situation, in that thought, what is the part that I can act on? What is the part that I cannot act on? If I cannot act on, so that's a bit for the one who are interested in that, it's a bit the Stoic philosophy, which doesn't mean that we just have to accept everything and happens what happens. It's more finding room for action. What is out of my control? Technically, that means I cannot do much about it. So the decision I can take is actually not to get worried or caught in it. But the part that is in my control, that's the one I need to work on and where I need to find, even if it's a tiny little thing, where I can act and where I can start. So I say first step is identifying, catching yourself, having the thought or being caught in a situation, which can lead to spiraling. And then you might have heard about imposter syndrome or saboteur, or there's a lot of things, and we could go really, really deep in all that. But the main part is catching yourself, even the way we're talking to ourselves. And then from that, making the decision, trying to identify which part is our control and which part is not. And from there, taking the action. Am I making sense? Yes, good. So what I wanted to do today is actually explain a bit of my story because, as I say, I was not really expecting that, but I had a flare a couple of weeks ago. And I think that kind of talk about mindset and how to react to that is always easier when there's an example. So at the end, it was quite a good thing that it happened to me. But in all MS flare, we all have a pattern. Everyone will have a different one, but we have a pattern. And for me, I know that it starts always by a really, really bad depression. Depression is really common symptoms in MS. There's a part we cannot do much about it because it's actually chemicals. It's not only just being sad or something happened. We have to understand that the body is also releasing some chemicals that are going to the brain, which then affect the brain and the way we react and create the depression. So depression is not like we might have heard many, many times, and what I heard since I'm a child is say, oh, you just need to get over it and keep smiling, see positive things. No, it's not that easy. It's actually also biochemicals that are going through the body and making us feel the way we feel. But I know it starts like that. And then, so that's usually my start. The following day, I'm starting to have massive pain in my right side. And then it's going to my hand, which this time got completely locked. And that was a bit scary, as I guess you can all understand. That kind of things, I had depression since I'm really, really young. And I know that kind of things, I could have get caught in that and stay in there for days and days, sometimes weeks. And for the one who know about it, it's a really, really, it's a painful feeling for me. It's really hurting. We don't want to stay in that. And it's really hard to get out of it. But because I've been doing this work for a really, really long time on my mindsets and having this tool of my control gate, when I felt it was happening, managed to stop myself. I say the hardest part is really to catch yourself and stop for a minute. And I had two things. I would say I have my toolbox. It's the triggers that are creating that and my tools to get out of it. I had to start with the triggers to understand why I was getting there this time. And life happens. I had a lot of things happening in my life lately, really, really stressful. I'm not going to go into details of that, but there was a lot, really a lot. And there was so much that I couldn't stop them before all this happened. So, and sadly, I had to reach the point of this depression to feel the need to really act. So I stopped and I took them all one by one. Some of them that I cannot control. I know that sadly I've been affected a lot by the weather at the moment. That's why the curtain are closed behind me. I live in Southland, for the one who don't know yet. And the weather has been really, really crappy and it's dark, there's no light. And this is mentally really affecting me. Can I control that? Not really. So this one, I just put it aside, say, okay, I've been affected by that. I acknowledge it, but I cannot do anything about that. But then there was other things like cost of life increasing and some financial burden on me because, yeah, things happened. And this one, I was feeling like I couldn't control it. But actually, in that, there was a little piece that I could do, like reaching out and asking for help. It was not really comfortable for me, but I had to call my mom, and suddenly it helped. So, and then there was a lot, and I took them one by one. And for each of them, I was trying to find out what was part I could control and the part I couldn't. So that was my first box, the triggers. And once I did this work, I took my second box, which was my tools, and I need to kind of soothe myself. And I need to find a way to also calm down and look after myself, because self-care, there's a lot of trend at the moment to talk about self-care, but that's really, really important. And I know that before I went too much down, I need to simply do something nice for myself. And I reached just for a silly book, something really relaxing, no drama in it, something simple. And I finished my day reading. And the following day, indeed, depression was gone. Then I had the pain, and then I had my hand locked. But again, this could have lasted way, way longer. So that's a bit what I wanted to talk about today. So I don't know if you have any questions. We can go further as well. If you want to say something about that. Right. If there's no question for now, there's something maybe interesting as well, because I was talking at one point about the fact that depression is not only in your head, it's also chemicals. All this story of mindsets and negative thoughts that we can have, we have to understand that it really affects healing and the progression of a disease. And it can, thank you, Rebecca. Yes, you can use the chat if you feel more comfortable to talk with me too, or to ask your question. Go for it. Yeah, so how all this affects healing, we have to understand that whatever we are thinking, how can I take that? We create chemicals in the body, which are neurotransmitters. 80% of our neurotransmitters are created in the gut. This neurotransmitter in the gut then travel and communicate with our immune system, with our hormones, with our digestive system, with all the body system. That's why sometimes when we feel a bit stressed, or stress usually, we can feel like we don't want to eat, or we feel a bit bloated, or that kind of things. It's actually a real chemical reaction. So we have to understand that things that might feel like they're not affecting the body physically actually are. And the negative thoughts, or if we talk to ourselves not in a nice way, going back to this story of mindsets, if I say to myself, oh, I always had depression and I will never get about it, that's a fixed mindset, I would just keep being depressed and then feeling sick and create more flare. It creates inflammation in the body. Your thoughts end up creating inflammation in the body. So everything really needs to be taken seriously. I think I run out a bit of idea here, but such a difficult subject that I can go everywhere. It can take me absolutely in many different ways. So yeah, I think that's the main thing I wanted to share with you. Please, if you have any question, please feel free to ask. I'm going to look at the chat as well. Or if you want to share a story as well, again, if you don't want me to share it with anybody else, it's going to be staying confidential and private here. I'm not going to record it. Well, it's recording, but I'm not going to share it anywhere. Anyone who likes to unmute? Well, I'm going to read it because it's easier for me than looking at my screen without talking to anybody. Completely agree. When my son can find his shoes for school in the morning, I start the day completely drained of energy. Yeah, that's the thing, is that I was talking about thought, but it's also any situations, and we get overwhelmed really easily. We can react really easily. I caught myself lately starting to be a bit aggressive, and I'm not an aggressive person. I'm a nice person, I hope. But I've noticed that lately, for any tiny things that was happening, I was snapping really quickly, and we really have to, yeah, as I say, take everything seriously. It's not a question of not finding shoes or having thought a bit negative or something happening. Everything is important and everything is affecting us. And indeed, it's draining energy as well. I think that's why I'm still a little bit tired today, because all these things that I was saying, I might have got rid of my depression. The pain is gone and my hand is moving again, so that's good. But I can feel now the consequences, and I'm extremely tired because all my triggers, I couldn't sort all of them. They are still here. So yeah, and again, when we are drained of energy, that means that there's still inflammation in the body. That's again a really, really difficult subject, especially when we're trying to link the I'm losing my voice now, the mental and emotional side with the biological side and how these two are linked. But yeah, you might have heard about having gut feelings. It's not just an expression, it's actually something that is real. Having a gut feeling is because there's something happening in the gut as well. Or you might have heard of, now it's really trendy as well, but talking about the mind-body connection. It's all linked, or the gut-brain axis as well. From the biological side, now we heard that more and more, that there's a link between what's happening in the gut and what's happening in the brain. And for me, that's a perfect parallel with what we're calling the mind-body connection, because everything affects the other. It's not, we cannot take just one aspect and isolate it. It's how we feel physically will affect our mental, but how we are mentally would also affect us physically. That's all right. I understand that too. Kids are welcome in the chat too if you want. Makes animations. Right, there's still 5 last minutes if anybody wants to share something. Talking about the next session, I'm gonna have a break in August, and really, if you're happy with that, encourage you to join my newsletter as well, because I'm gonna keep you updated about a few changes that's gonna happen. I'm still trying to find the best way to share what I can and have a discussion with you, but it's not always easy for everyone to be there live, and I don't really want to share the recording too easily as well, to respect privacy. So I'm still trying to find the best way for you to have access to this talk, and at the same time for me not to, it's actually a lot of preparation as well and a lot of time. So I'm gonna take a break in August. What I can say is that I'm gonna start developing a YouTube channel with some really, really short videos that you're gonna be able to access anytime. So I'm gonna start having kind of 2-3 minutes video with some tiny subject like that as well, which I think will be draining less energy from me and maybe for you as well. And for the chat, I'm gonna keep doing them because I really enjoy it as well, but I don't know if it's gonna stay like that. If you want to say something about it as well, please let me know, because I always like to have your feedback. After all, it's for you. But yeah, I'm gonna think about that in August. I'm gonna take a break and see in September how we getting that organized.